What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm bringing you my 5 fantasy football wildcards for 2023. Now, what's a wildcard? A wildcard is a player that I have no clue where they're going to finish this year. Their wide range of outcomes are so vast, they could literally be top of their position, maybe middle of the road and average, or they could doom you this year. The outcomes are wild. So let's start it off and let's hop into my number 1 player I have for this year. And it's got to be DeAndre Hopkins, right? Hopkins is going as the wide receiver 21, 52nd overall on Fantasy Pros half PPR rankings. And I think this one is simple, right? He's turning 31 years old, so there's some questions about his age. But he's been nothing but elite the last, 10 years of his career, no matter where he's been. And another big variable is, what team is he going to play on? Sure, last year he did look great. But going from Arizona, who had this really widespread offense, who liked to throw the ball, and he really was the only receiver on the team that we really cared about, right? Where does he go? Rumors have been for DeAndre Hopkins, the Patriots, which makes me go, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, I don't know, not my favorite. Cleveland, I wouldn't mind, but we saw Deshaun Watson not really come back to form last year. Maybe he does this year. He was an elite quarterback before, the allegations, that be safe. And him and Hopkins do have a rapport, obviously, playing in Houston before. But outside of that, I have no idea where he's going to go. I don't even have a guess. So if he ends up, which my fear is that he ends up on, the Green Bay Packers and he plays with a quarterback like Jordan Love, somewhere random with a quarterback where I don't love it, or goes to Tennessee. That was a rumor too. I would hate for him to go to Tennessee. So Hopkins, with the variable of being, 31 years old, coming off of injuries and a season where he was suspended for PEDs, and maybe going to a bad quarterback, he could be at the bottom of fantasy football this year. He could be at the bottom of the spectrum for outcomes. But what if he goes and gets that golden ticket? What if Kansas City goes, hey man, come on over, we got an opening? He could be the wide receiver 1. That's how good he is if age doesn't affect him. So that's why he's my wild card this year. Second player I want to talk about is another elite talent guy, just in a not so good situation and hasn't had a great couple of years. It's Darren Waller, going as a tight end 7, 76th overall. This could be an absolute steal for your fantasy team this year. And it could also be a horrible pick. It could be a terrible pick because of 2 major things. He's awesome when he's healthy. And the last 2 seasons where he played a lot of games and was truly healthy, he had over 1,000 yards, a season with over 90 catches, and a season with over 100 catches. Elite. That's great. But since those seasons, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's played 9 games in one season and 11 games in another. I can't take a tight end that early who hasn't been able to stay healthy and hasn't been elite for 2 years. And look, he's now with the Giants, so there's a lot of opportunity for him to catch 1 billion passes. But I worry. They couldn't make it happen with Evan Ingram, who turns out to be a pretty decent tight end in the NFL, as Jacksonville just proved this past season. Darren Waller's good, but I worry Daniel Jones isn't good enough to make him a true fantasy contributor week after week after week after week. Sure, there wasn't a lot of talented weapons there this year outside of Saquon, but nobody else did anything. Isaiah Hodges was probably their best receiver this year for fantasy football. Daniel Jones, to me, just isn't a good enough contributor, to get the ball where he needs to go, to pass. He's just not a good enough quarterback. That's it. He's not good enough. It makes me nervous, but I've been wrong before. I don't think Derek Carr's the best quarterback ever, and I've seen Darren Waller be so talented and just perform. And it's not like I really need you to do a ton as a tight end to be a top 5 weapon. And especially in fantasy football, you don't need a lot. You need 900 yards and probably 5 to 8 touchdowns, and that gets you pretty close to top 5. So I think Darren Waller can easily do it, but with his age going over 30, Daniel Jones not being a great quarterback, and him being injured all the time, he could be very bottom of the list for tight ends. Or maybe he bounces back and he just becomes elite again. And he has another season where he goes over 1,100 yards and 90 catches, and he's just a baller again. They're both on the table. That's why Daniel Jones and this whole situation with Darren Waller is a true wild card situation. The next player I want to talk about is someone that I really, really like as a talent and I love on film and balled out last year and really came onto the scene, but it's Tony Pollard. We have to be realistic with Tony Pollard. This guy broke so many big plays last year, it doesn't seem realistic for him to do it again. Having a starting running back average over 5 yards a carry is basically Nick Chubb and like Jamal Charles, and I think that's it. Like it's a rare feat. This year he's going to come into a situation that seems pretty bulletproof, right? His own backfield. They brought in Ronald Jones, and I believe Malik Davis is the other backup, and they drafted Deuce Vaughn, whatever. So it's really his backfield to lose. My only concerns are, one, can he handle a full workload? He's a bit of a smaller back, and he's not the youngest guy. I mean, he's still only like 26, and he hasn't had a lot of tread off his tires. But running backs, man, you're small. He's not a big guy. Like, don't get it twisted. Can he handle a full workload without having the Zeke Elliott to help split? Because last year, him and Zeke literally split it 49%, dead split down the middle in touches. Can he handle the 60-40, the 65-35 split? Can he handle it? We don't know. We'll find out. And another thing, too, they just lost Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was our offensive coordinator for the past 5 years, probably, maybe even longer. He's gone. He went to the Chargers. And now I don't know how to feel about their new OC situation. It makes me nervous when I see a guy ball out with the last offensive coordinator. Who knows what they do this year? So maybe this one isn't as crazy as a wild card as I thought, but going as the RB9, 14th pick overall, this is a big swing and miss if you miss. If you miss, you lost your first round pick. You lost your first round, maybe if you got lucky, second round pick. That's a big gamble to take. And especially if he doesn't finish as, at least a top 10 running back this year. If he finishes at like 15 to 20 or worse, you swung and missed, and this wild card burned you. Number 4 will be the last running back I want to talk about on this list. And it's a guy, I'm going to say it again, the talent is so high. I love the talent. It's DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift coming in as the RB25, 61st player overall. He is legit awesome. But he's always hurt, right? The guy cannot stay healthy. Now, leaving Detroit, going to Philly, I think he has a chance to be behind one of the best offensive lines, a team that just went to the Super Bowl, made Miles Sanders a really good running back, who I don't think is that talented actually, but had a really productive season. If DeAndre Swift steps into the starting role and gets, even if it's half the job, like Sanders kind of did last year where he split with other guys, if he gets the majority of carries or pass catching work, I think he could be legit awesome for fantasy. But the wild card comes in. The situation's great. The talent's great. But the health concerns. The guy has played about 13 games each of the last 2 seasons. But has played 20 snaps in each of those. Has been, around the 30% snap cap, every week. And that's not what you need for fantasy football. That's not a productive player. Especially a guy who, sure, I'm taking him at RB25. But I want him to be an RB10 or above. That's the guy I'm going for. I'm going for a home run player here because the guy is legit talented. And I'm going to have a video coming out soon, so make sure you stay around for that. Scouting DeAndre Swift. But I think Swift is really awesome on a great team, but he can't stay healthy. And they brought in Rashad Penny, another player who can't stay healthy either, which makes me a little less nervous. But Rashad Penny is legit talented too, but can't stay healthy. So we have 2 injured backs who are legit good, but it's going to come down to who can stay healthy and who gets the job. So I think Swift can be a really, really, really valuable player this year for fantasy, like huge. I think he's a league winner. I legit do. But he can also burn you when he only plays 10 games. And in the games he does play, he gets 25% of the snaps. He could burn you, but he can also win you a league. And the last player that I'm going to talk about, which I'm sure you guessed it because it's pretty obvious, it's Calvin Ridley going to Jacksonville. As the wide receiver 24, 56th overall, these guys, especially Calvin Ridley, have proven to be good players in the past. I mean, Calvin Ridley's been a wide receiver 1 before, was really great in Atlanta. But now, after not playing a ton the last season, he was with Atlanta, then getting suspended for a whole year. Here we are, right? He's in Jacksonville, and he hasn't played since 2021. The guy hasn't played in 2 years. Really good when he can play. But with a new Jacksonville team, with a player who hasn't played in 2 years, who really only had 1 true elite fantasy season. Before that, he had a couple high touchdown years. But 1 truly good, great fantasy season makes me kind of have one hit wonder thoughts in my head. So with that, and the fact that I kind of like their other receivers there, they have a lot of weapons with Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, forgetting his name right now. Christian Kirk last year, who was over 1,000 yards. Like, they have a lot of weapons to spread around, and can Trevor Lawrence make it happen? But am I sure that Calvin Ridley's just going to step right in and be the wide receiver 1 for Jacksonville? I go wild card, man. I say it's a wild card. He could either be really, really great and be the elite receiver he was in Atlanta, or he could kind of fall back and he's a little rusty and it takes him a while to get back into it. And it's hit or miss weeks. You know, he has the weeks where he goes off, but then there's the weeks where it's Evan Ingram's turn and it's Christian Kirk's turn. So that's why I think at wide receiver 24, it's a good bet to take. But he could really be a complete dud, or he could be a superstar. He's a true wild card. And all right, those are my 5 fantasy football wild cards for 2023. If you liked the video, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for content coming all over the summer. It's currently June 20th as I'm recording this, so we're not even into July yet, right? We still have another week or two until we really hit when fantasy football season pops off in July. So stay tuned. Let's get ahead of all your league mates. Let's start studying now, and let's win you a championship. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.